Okay, so a little bit about what's underneath this guy. We're gonna load him up on the lift, get a different perspective too. Actually, my favorite view is when the car is almost eye level. Looks pretty cool. And this is just like the rough finish right now. Obviously, this is gonna be coated with carbon fiber like that, painted, smooth. And we're gonna have this is gonna be black right down here, and I don't know what color we'll make the body. Maybe a red for this version, which I think would be pretty cool. Just FYI, the lift that this car's on, I got it off Amazon too. It is super affordable, and believe it or not, my wife and I assembled this whole thing in like an afternoon, and it has worked flawlessly for a long time. Okay, lower this guy down on the locks. Right. So, just real quick, manual rack. We got our Corvette fans, which are really, really strong. I highly recommend them. Cold case radiator. The Corvette fans actually slot into the cold case radiator, so it's a super easy build there. This is kind of a temporary battery box, but it's for a little 5-pound anti-gravity battery, which works unbelievably well. I would highly recommend that on a custom build. We got the LS1 motor. Right now, this is just a really affordable C6 Corvette oil pan. The Batwing Corvette oil pan on the C5s won't fit between the tubes on these factory 5 chassis. So we got the reversed Flowtech headers right here, coming into some custom built exhausts that I made, these 2.5-inch undercar exhausts. And let's see, okay, we got the 4.6 Ford motor mounts. They help mate the LS1. Now, one of the things is the stock factory 5 LS motor mounts, they put the motor, in my opinion, too far forward. So what it is, I ordered some adjustable motor mounts from Jegs, and these are supposed to adjust LS motors to Ford chassis, because basically the factory 5s are Ford chassis. And it didn't work great out of the box, so you couldn't get to some screws, so it's a little bit complicated, but I tapped some of the back of these parts in here for these sliding adapters. You can't see it here. It looks really clean and nice now, but it was actually a fair amount of work tapping stuff to get the proper bolts in there. But once I did that, geometrically it's perfect. I slid the sliders the absolute farthest point on the back that I could, and you get this really awesome weight distribution. This engine is way back there, so you only got like 1/4 inch or so on this plate. And let's see, we just did wiring, rivets, what have you. Got the TKX trans here. Got this really awesome QuickTime bell housing to get the clearances right, because you don't want any part of the transmission, the engine, the clutch, whatever, hanging below these tubes. Actually trimmed this bell housing and then painted it. So that's how we took care of that. Got the oil filter right here. I don't know why that's there. Oil filter, and then we have I have a dummy switch that goes to the dash. Just real quick, if you have low oil pressure, red light will illuminate. And then I've got the speed hut pressure sensor right here. So when we go out on the track, I'll hook that gauge up, or maybe just put it into a data acquisition setup so we monitor the oil pressure. So on these LS1 Gen 3 engines, which this guy is, the 5.7, the oil pressure sensor is a complete nightmare. You know, if you have a Corvette, you got to almost drill part of the windshield trim apart to get to the oil pressure sensor if you don't want to take the intake manifold off. So it's right here in this setup. But I guess what I really meant to say was these NOx sensors. The NOx sensors are just like the oil pressure sensor. You got to take the intake manifold off. It's a real nightmare to get to. So what I did is I just bolted them into these free kind of motor mount bolts. This is the left one, and then I think we got the right up above the starter. I think it is So the knock sensors are bolted in to the original, some of the original motor mount threads up there, right up there if you can see it. And they work perfect. We don't get any errors on there. So that's a really nice setup. And I just had to use, I think, extensions on the harness, or I don't even think I used extensions. No, I did. I used a conversion on the harness, which is really affordable from Amazon also. Actually, down here too, you can see the NiCopp 3/8 fuel line that I bent to fit under here. I would do this personally, I think, rather than the hose, because it's much harder to nick, and it just seems better to me having a rigid line down there. If it's higher than the tube, you don't have to worry about hitting anything if you bottom the car out. So I got the TKX trans right up here, mounted the QuickTime. I got a it's a stock LS7 setup in there, pressure plate and clutch, but that setup is so heavy. A lot of people don't understand that. That what I did is I took the stock LS7 flywheel out, which it might be 30 pounds. It is really heavy. And I put a Ram aluminum flywheel in there, and it's amazing. The car idles perfectly. There's no shakes, no rattles, no nothing. And I think it's a touch lighter overall than a stock LS1 like Corvette clutch setup. And it is really, really like strong. That LS7 clutch is beefy. I got the slave cylinder for that. It's right up in here. It's a Tilton, I think it's like something like a 6061 slave, and I got the speed bleeder right here. When you put that in, you got to make sure you orient it the correct way. When I first put it in, I had it flipped 180, and so the lines had to cross the pressure plate. That's a really bad idea. Don't do that. The lines clipped the pressure plate when I first put it in, and that was a disaster. So this guy's been in and out like 3 or 4 times. But the setup on this makes it so you can take the trans out in about 15 minutes, believe it or not. That was a really sweet setup if it whatever was to break. But these TKXs are pretty beefy as long as you have them set up right. Offset pins on the Bellhousing, of course. You do that right. I got these, I think they're like Moroso offset pins up there. Set that up, clock it, it's just right. Got the stock factory 5 drive shaft here. About an inch of clearance between the end of the tail housing seal and the tip of that. And then I have a small speedway spacer in here because this TKX is pretty short. And then we're going to the Cobra rear, which has 327s in it. Of course, LSD. We got the 3-link setup from factory 5, bolted and drilled that baby in there. And they have this what they call banana arm, which keeps the pinion angle